everyone, Krista Moser here. Today I get to show you how to make a grandmother's flower garden quilt. Or it's my version of a grandmother's flower garden quilt. It's a little more simplified, and that's what we've got here behind me. Now this is just a free pattern that I've put together to teach you another way you can use your rulers. Either the mini 60-degree diamond ruler or the large. Both will work, and so I'll demonstrate how to use each one depending on which one you have. So this is very simple to do. It's just with 2.5-inch strips. Of course, I have a very subtle color palette that is somewhat like the originals. If you know anything about Grandmother's Flower Garden, it uses a lot of this kind of old green color and a lot of peaches. And I've done a little extra thing with the plaid in the center, so that's kind of fun. So here I've got some 2.5-inch strips. Now I open them to a single layer. So if you're cutting strips selvage to selvage, they often come in different widths. And you'll see there's quite a discrepancy between these two. I've got a green one and a pink one. And so it's a good idea to open them to a single layer so you can cut your way all the way across, and that way you maximize the amount of cuts you get out of a strip. So that's what I've done. I pressed the crease out of the middle. I went ahead and layered up to 2 different strips here. You're welcome to layer up more if you have a very sharp rotary blade and some confidence, then you can do maybe 4 layers, but I'll just do 2 here. So now what we've got, I'm going to use the mini ruler to start with, and what you need is the 4.5-inch line on the mini ruler and then the white dashed line. So we're going to use the triangle side of the ruler, and I'm just going to line up the 4.5-inch line. This has got the markings on either end. It's a black dashed line, and then the white dashed line across the top. And so what you should be seeing here is the large hole. That's the hole they used for hanging the ruler, is up at the top here, and all the numbers work up towards that. The reason I make a big deal about this is just because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut on either side here and then flatten these 2 tips on the outside edge. Just like that. Now, if you were, say, lined up on the wrong side of this 4.5-inch line on the ruler, you wouldn't be able to cut off your 2 edges. You know, you would still have a 4.5-inch line. You wouldn't have a white dash line here, but you would not be able to cut off those 2 outside points. And that's a really nice little feature to be able to use to match up your piecing later. So we're going to do that. Now turn the ruler around, coming down from the point this time. 4.5-inch line goes across the top, and the white dash line is at the bottom, and then nipping off those outside tips. Turn the ruler, next cut, same thing. So that is the cut. You're going to do a bunch of these. So I'll stack these up, and if you've got the large ruler, let me show you how that one is done. So the large ruler here, we're going to use the 4.5-inch line again, and this time we have a star burr line. So there's a set of stars where the 2-inch line would be on the mini ruler. So I'm going to turn the ruler so I'm coming down from the top. I'm still using the triangle lines, this time the 4.5-inch line here, and then there's a set of stars across the other end. Now you will notice we don't have the advantage of cutting those outside tips off. So I'm going to do a few cuts like this, and then I'm going to go back with the ruler and use the flat tip of the ruler in those outside points. Turning the ruler, the 4.5-inch line. You should get 10 cuts across each one of your strips. So if you've got full selvage to selvage edge strips, you should get 10 cuts. All right, so here, we want those tips removed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the ruler. So I'm using the flat tip of the large ruler now, and I'm just going to put it right there into that point. And we'll do that on both of them. You can skip this step, but I would not suggest it. It is just really beneficial to matching up your points when you go to assemble, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So I'm going to remove the tips on the other side as well. This pattern is very much a beginner-friendly pattern. So if you've not done anything with angles, this is a great one to start with, because you will be very impressed. Okay, so You're going to do this a whole bunch of times. Now, I'm just going to separate my colors here. Basically, these are 4.5-inch trapezoids cut from 2.5-inch strips. So I've done some others already, cut, and let me show you how they get laid out. So to build your flowers, we need 12 of your colored trapezoids, and then 2 trapezoids for the center. So each flower gets built like this. Here we go. Basically, you're making hexagons. And this is, I'm going to use this one here because I think this will, we need a couple more, it looks like, to give you a full flower. Gives you some idea anyway. And then here would be your centers, your trapezoids in the middle. I need, if we can pretend for a minute that this is the same color, it would be like this. Here's a whole flower. Now you notice these trapezoids line up in rows. So you could go on to have your next flower being something like this. And the way that they interlock with each other to kind of stagger, I'll go ahead and put the middle in this one, this green flower. So this flower kind of staggers up just a little bit. All right, like that. I could build a dark green one down here. You get the idea. Would be the dark green down here, and you're just going to continue on like that, building your flowers, but then you get to sew them into rows. So let's say this is the top of the quilt. Everything goes together in rows just like this. 2.5-inch basically strips of trapezoids. So you're going to be sewing these together one after another into rows. And this is where those flat tips come into play. So here we have row 1, and you're going to take this green trapezoid, sewing it to the checkered one, which is the center, and notice we have flat tip and flat tip here, and that gives you your perfect match-up point for a 1/4-inch seam allowance. So that takes all the guesswork out of it. Rather than having to match up angles, you've got the match just like that. So it's really important to go ahead and flatten those tips. So you would sew this seam, you would press it out, and then you would sew the next one on, same way. Press it out, and then you're moving into the next color. So now we're into a peach one. It gets sewn on, pressed out, and so on and so forth. So I've actually sewn some of those rows together. Let me pick these up here, and I will show you. If you are going to do these built row by row, there's a pressing technique or pressing tip that will really help you to match everything up and get your seams to nest. So here, I've done some short rows. This could be for a baby quilt. We've got flower starting to build. The trapezoid rows all together. Here we go. Just like this. So then what I'm going to show you is I took row 1, and notice I pressed all the seams to the left. And then row 2, I pressed all the seams to the right. And I did that every other row. Row 1 goes this way, row 2 this way, and so on. And so when I go to actually join these 2 rows together, taking one on top of the other, all my seams nest and interlock. So I'm going to start sewing down the edge here, and I can just feel that these seams, because they nest into each other, they lock in. And so as I go, I can just feed it into the machine and not have to use so many straight pins. Straight pins are great, but sometimes it's just faster, and this is a great technique with pressing that really helps you get your piecing accuracy dialed in. So doing something like this is probably going to be like a baby quilt, but the pattern actually includes 3 sizes. So I did here's the pattern. Like I said, it's just a free PDF download printable, so I'll put a link to that in the description. And it's got all of your piece counts for which fabrics to cut and how many of each one. So the basic layout for the one behind me, this is the lap size, and this one is 50 by 60. And then we have a twin size one that is 75 by 80, so it's a pretty good size quilt. And then there's a queen size layout as well, that is 90 by 100. So, 3 sizes to choose from. You can make it as big as you want. Of course, you could even make it smaller, but very, very straightforward and simple, and kind of a fun, fun project if you're just starting. And last but not least, I put together a kit. So if you liked the colors that I chose for the one behind me and you want to do the very same thing, here you see I've put together the bundle of the fabrics that I use. So we've got the plaid for the center, there's a peachy pink, and then more of a pink. There's the lightest pink. I have kind of a seafoam green, a spring green, and then one that's called old green. And then the binding, I did the seafoam green again. So this kit, or this bundle, will make the one behind me. But if you got 2 bundles, it makes the twin size one, or 3 bundles makes the queen size layout. So there's lots to choose from, and you can just go to town however you want to do it. So I'll put a link to the kits in the description box, and then of course the pattern too as well. And all of this can be also found at KristaMoser.com. If you look under the tutorials tab, there is a link for free patterns. It's the first link under the tutorials tab, so you can go there to find the pattern if you can't find the link in the description box. And then the kits will be available in the shop as well. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found something inspiring and fun and very easy to do, and another way to use your rulers. Thanks for watching.